Hey everyone, it's Rob Ryder. Things to do. 1, 2, 3. As a bounty hunter and informer for the U.S. Treasury. That could be you if you decide to be. 1, you would gather evidence. 2, you would submit a referral. 3, you would claim your reward. So if they publish a CAFR, we're going to ask for proof. And don't forget the Freemasons, although I don't believe they have CAFRs, but I'm sure they claim to be tax exempt. And anybody who claims to be tax exempt, we're going to ask for the proof that the IRS agrees that they're tax exempt. If the IRS doesn't agree they're tax exempt, and they think they're tax exempt, they haven't been paying taxes, well, technically they're just evading taxes. That's what the IRS is looking for, and they pay rewards, apparently. And I am Rob Ryder. My email address is courtofrecord@aol.com. Always the easiest way to get a hold of me, courtofrecord@aol.com. You want to update? Go to robcourtofrecord.wordpress.com and sign up. That's when I send updates that I've done another video, or if I have an email I want to send with some information, whatever. I can't send it by AOL anymore. They made it too difficult to send bulk emails, and I just don't need the frustration. And donate if you can, please. Easy way to do it's PayPal. AshleyRytlewski@gmail.com. Just stop it right here and write that down. AshleyRytlewski@gmail.com is the PayPal name. Or you can send a money order, however you want to do it, to me at my address, Robert Rytlewski, 10955 14 Mile Road, Rockford, Michigan, 49341. Okay, it's not my address, somebody's address. I'm using it. I claim use of it right now. And today is Sunday, September 14th, 2014. So, for the last couple of weeks, we've been just kind of dibbling our toes in the water, seeing what we can find when we went and asked certain questions of supposed government entities for things like their EIN number. If they had a determination letter from the IRS, did they file any paperwork? What did they have? And a lot of them say, well, we're the government, we don't have to do that stuff. Right? But they still normally will give you the EIN number. And if you can get the EIN number, it's a heck of a good place to start. But let's just go through it here for a little bit. So let's see what the Internal Revenue Department says. Because after all, they're the ones that are going to enforce the law. And they say the Internal Revenue Code and regulations describe the documents that all, see that word, all, A-L-L? All tax-exempt organizations, including tax-exempt 527 political organizations, must disclose. Forget the 527. All tax-exempt organizations, if you say that you're tax-exempt for any reason, apparently there's things you must disclose. And I think that's important. We should call these request for disclosure, not request for information or Freedom of Information Act stuff. No, this is a request for disclosure. It's covered separately than Freedom of Information Act. See, there's just certain things they have to disclose, and basically, like for a corporation, they have to disclose it when you walk in the door. I don't care if it's a non-profit corporation or a for-profit corporation. If it's things the IRS says you need to make publicly available, and if somebody comes in and wants a copy, you need to give it to them, and they don't do it immediately, well, technically they just broke a federal law. We can let the IRS handle it from there. But we can do better than that. So, 527s, what do they need to do? Well, the notice of status. That's for everybody. Everybody has to have a notice of status. Are you who you say you are according to the IRS? It's called a determination letter ruling, I think is the proper name from the IRS, but it's a determination from the IRS that says this entity is who they report to be, and yes, they are tax exempt. Because they don't give tax exempt numbers. They just give letters that show their consent or agreement that you are who you say you are. Tax-exempt organizations must respond to a request for parts of their disclosable annual financial returns and application for recognition of exemption. And that's the biggie, the application for recognition of exemption. Right? Requester must specifically identify the requested part of the schedule. Okay, well, you want to see, let's see what they are. You want to have their application for recognition. That's simple. Please provide me a copy of your application for recognition of tax exempt status filed with the IRS. Put it on, send it to them, and see what they say. And by the way, I need your EIN number and a W-9, and then behind W-9, go look up W-9 because I can't remember what it is, and put whatever the title of the paperwork is, because basically it's just confirming that the entity in the name line belongs to the EIN number that you're going to put on the form. They're going to say it only goes to vendors or something. Some places will, some places will give it to you. But you know, the W-9 is good to get. The employer identification number is good to get. And so those you can get, but when you start asking for this application, they say, well, we don't have one of those. We're the government. We don't need one. What does the IRS say? So, tax-exempt organizations are also required to make amended returns available for public inspection and copying beginning on the date the returns are filed. There you go. The phrase application for recognition encompasses many different types of documents. It could be a Form 1023. It could be a Form 1024. It could be all the documents and statements that went with the 1023 or 1024. It could be any statement or other document submitted by the organization in support of its application. Legal brief, response to questions from the service. Yeah, it's a real interesting little package of stuff. Any letter or other document issued by the service concerning the exemption application. See, this is that determination letter. A determination letter or other document issued by the service concerning the exemption application, such as a favorable determination letter. Right? There you go. You ain't got that, you're screwed, blued and tattooed. But some organizations, and they're going to use the 501D, my apostolic organization, as one of the examples, do not use an IRS form such as a 1023, 1024 to file for recognition of exemption. Okay, well, that's just some. There's others besides. Here's one. What could another one possibly be? How about a political subdivision? How about a municipal corporation? How about somebody who's trying to hide something? They're going to go try it this way. So their application would include the application letter, articles of incorporation, declaration of trust, or other similar instruments that set forth permitted powers or activities of the organizations, right? So declaration of trust doesn't need to have a Form 1023, 1024. But it does need to have whatever it needs to have. Has to have bylaws. Statements describing the character of the organization, the purpose of which it was organized, and its actual activities. Latest financial statement showing assets, liabilities, statement showing source of income, other statements and documents the service required it to file with the application that's submitted. Okay, so this is more than likely the things that we're talking about, that we're going to go find out where these are through a different door. Hang on. But let's just take a particular, let's just take one. So what do we got here? That was that, so that is, all right. When you ask them for, you know, some information like the EIN number, you may get something like this. It's from the Department of Treasury, Internal Revenue Service, County of Kane. Now see how it's got a %, Kane County Treasurer? Almost all the time you find the treasurer or a treasurer type office listed in that second line. I think that's quite interesting. But regardless, taxpayer identification number 36 blah blah blah. All right, they're saying that is it for County of Kane. Now how do we know that? Because when we go, and we'll come back to this in a second here, and look at the W-9 request for taxpayer identification number and certification. Right? That's what you want it for. Why do I want it? Well, because I want to certify that your identification number is correct. So up here in block 1 under name, they put County of Kane, and down here they put this number. Well, what the instructions say is whatever name you put up here, it better be the name that's on the application for this number down here. If not, then there should have been a withholding of 28%, basically, of any donation that you would give that entity. Right now, if I want to give an entity a donation, I need to make sure the entity I'm giving it to belongs with the employer identification number that they gave me. And you do that with a W-9. And they have to certify under perjury, right? And I've covered this in videos before, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. I'm just saying, well, they will give you a W-9 here. Here's one. The County of Kane. Now, I actually think that this thing that I'm looking at here right now, it's I don't know how many page, 44-page document. I found online. I didn't actually get this from the county, or Roe didn't get this one from the county. This is something we found online by searching on something else. But nevertheless, right, you do want to ask for one. And then here's the kicker, right? This comes from the state. And what we're going to find out is that these entities are registering themselves as limited liability companies, LLCs, with the state. But we'll get to that later in the video. But right, so this here, though, this is to the County of Kane Treasurer. All right, what was this one up here? Right, the County of Kane County Treasurer. Well, there's a difference, right? So what's the difference? Apparently there is one. But effective some date, we have renewed your governmental exemption. See, it's governmental, not government. They're like governmental exemption. From payment of the retailer's occupation tax, the service occupation tax, the use tax, the service use tax required by Illinois law. I don't have it on here, but I've seen that before when I was looking based on this stuff, and that's really the same things they give a college. There's nothing special about those, but the fact that the county had to give them should mean something. But what this is saying is we have issued a new tax exemption identification number, so that they've gone to the state, and the state has says they're tax exempt. The terms and conditions govern use of your exemption number remain unchanged, right? So we would like to know some information about this place. But first of all, this is their tax exempt identification number, E9996-085006. To County of Kane of Geneva, Illinois. Well, now they're saying that this entity is called the County of Kane of Geneva, Illinois. Or up here, they just said they were the County of Kane. It doesn't say of Geneva, Illinois, but right? If what they're going to use, because we're going to see that those other instruments the IRS talked about get sent to the state, and the state then gives them this information here. The state is the one that calls them tax exempt. It'll make more sense in a while. And that's at the Office of Local Government Services, Illinois Department of Revenue. You go on. So if you go to your Department of Revenue and you look up for tax exempt nonprofit entities, pretty interesting, and we're going to be looking at that shortly. But anywho, all right, so there you go. So anyways, what did they say their number was? This is 366006-585, and I think that's what I put on here when I find it. Yeah. Okay. So how do you know how do you determine if there's probable cause to have this that claimed to themselves by the state, right, to be tax exempt, right? They want a tax exemption number. Well, cool. So we're going to take this number here and we're going to go to, let's look up tax exempt organizations on Google. and then you can look for the one that says exempt organizations, select check. This on the very first page, like the fourth one down. If you just were to Google on tax exempt organizations and you click on that, and we go to the IRS website and we click on exempt organizations, select check tool. Let's do that, and we want to do limit search to organizations that are eligible to receive tax-deductible charitable contributions. That's where we're going to do it to. And now we're going to put that number in here. And we're going to search. Organization eligible to receive tax-deductible charitable contributions. There was no tax-exempt organization found matching the search values you entered. Please refine your search. Well, hell, all I did was put in their tax-exempt number. But this is our to receive tax-deductible charitable contributions. And really, that's what all these places are receiving in one way or the other. That's the exemption they're claiming from the IRS, is that the contributions they get should be tax-deductible. So, let's go from there. Okay, so you get the idea, right? We're going to go look for certain things so we can gather the evidence, submit a referral, and claim your reward. Okay, so next, let's go look at what the IRS says. Tell the IRS about suspected tax-exempt status abuse. Go ahead and complain. The Internal Revenue Service is all ears. Excellent. Particularly about complaints alleging any abuse of tax-exempt status granted to nonprofit organizations. They really don't like that, apparently. When reviewing filed complaints, the IRS follows special procedures that enable it to treat all organizations fairly and without outside influence. It'll all be handled by the IRS. They don't need to go to the courts. They don't need to go to the president. Nope. The Treasury can handle this themselves. Because remember, these people are under the Treasury. A complaint, which the IRS calls a referral, is any communication alleging tax-exempt organization is a potential non-compliance with tax law. Every year, the IRS receives complaints from general public, members of the Congress, federal and state government agencies, and internal sources. Referrals are sent to an analyst at the exempt organization's classifications office in Dallas, Texas. The IRS will send an acknowledgement letter to all non-IRS sources making a referral, unless it was made anonymously. Of course, then they can't do it. The IRS cannot disclose whether it has initiated an examination result of an examination. Well, you'll know it if something happens in your city, like they shut it down, or there's a perp walk or something like that. But you're not going to get anything from the IRS about it. Classification experts confirm the identity of the referred organization. Well, excellent. So is it the County of Kane or the County of Kane, Geneva, Illinois? A revenue agent then performs a thorough technical analysis of the allegation and will decide on the following. Right, just the kind of things they're going to do. When the IRS decides to examine an organization, the classification office will forward the case to a field group for assignment to a review agent. The agent will contact the organization and schedule an appointment to begin the examination. Oh, that'd be an interesting phone call. To make a referral of an exempt organization, submit Form 13909. 13909, Tax Exempt Organization Complaint, parentheses, referral form. But it's really a complaint. That's beautiful. That's what I want to do, put in a complaint. And then mail it to this address here. Okay. Now, that's what this form says here. But let's go. Now that we know where we're headed, let's go look at something here. Let's see if we get rid of that one. I got to keep that one. Okay. At first I thought it was this form here, but it wasn't this referral, right? This is the one if you follow the WordPress site, I was talking about this form on an email I did. It wasn't in the video. It was the last thing I put up. But when I finally got around to reading the directions, it said down here that to report misconduct or wrongdoing by a tax-exempt organization or its officers, directors, authorized persons, to use this other form. All right, so don't use this form. And so I sent it to the wrong address, because I sent it to the address that said this here. What I had done, I didn't even do this form, because you don't have to use these forms. You could just write them a complaint. That's what it said in this particular case. And I had written a complaint that I showed in the video, a couple of videos ago, that I was going to send to the Treasury. And I did that. I made a few changes, and I sent it to the Inspector General of the Treasury, because the Inspector General has these guys called special agents that, by the Inspector General's Act of 1978, now ex officio have the same power as U.S. Marshals, and U.S. Marshals have the same powers as magistrate judges. So, a special agent of an Inspector General has the same authority as a what do you call him? Not a magistrate judge, federal magistrate judge. He's the guy you should give your complaint to, who should take it and say, yep, you're right, put a seal on it, and, get the ball rolling. He's the entry point. It's the one they hide. So anyways, we can get rid of this one now. What I wanted to show. And the one I want to show is, here it is. Hang on just a second. Oh, this is what happens when you run an XP after it's expired and got a 14-year-old computer. It can be frustrating sometimes. Hang on just a second. Okay. Form 13909, Tax Exempt Organization Complaint, Referral Form. Name of referred organization. Right? Well, what are you going to use? Well, that's why you would want to have, it'd be really nice to have the W-9, right? Because all this information is going to come off the W-9, including the identification number. So one of the things that you ask for with the EIN is, if you don't want to ask for the W-9, or another way to ask for it is, you want the EIN and the legal title and the legal title name that goes to the EIN with its address. Nature of the violation, right? Persons are using income assets for personal gain. Engaged in commercial, for-profit business activities. Well, they are. Income assets are being used to support illegal or terrorist activities. Well, certainly illegal activities, they are. Organization involved in political campaign. Organization excessive lobbying. Organization refuses to disclose or to provide a copy of the Form 990. Well, you can check that box. They're going to say they don't have to do a Form 990, but apparently the IRS says if you're tax exempt, you have to have a Form 990, because I can check a box if you didn't give me one. Failed to report employment, income, or excise liability properly. Yes, they haven't done that. Failed to file required federal tax returns and forms. Yes, because they can't give me copies of them. Organization engaged in deceptive or improper fund. I don't know what that. Other. Antitrust. Right? If these places aren't the political subdivision that they say they are, because they haven't done the paperwork, and that anybody then is taking money from you for any reason, that just became antitrust, because they've eliminated your ability to interact in commerce. Right? They're going to make you give them a donation instead of you using your money in commerce the way you want to. That's antitrust. What is it, the Sherman Act? Is that what it was? Right? You can't get past the first. You can't get past the first frickin' section in the Antitrust Act. And I think it's the Sherman Antitrust Act. I think that was the name of it, the first one. they're busted. If you're impeding my ability to contract or to be in commerce or whatever, so like a cop pulls you over on the side of the road, that's antitrust, man. If that dude isn't a cop representing a municipal corporation or political subdivision that's has a determination letter from the IRS saying they are who they say they are, then that's antitrust. And that's really a criminal organization, much like the mafia. Well, they just all been excommunicated then. To boot. Details of the violation. Submitter information. Right? If you don't want it, you don't have to put anything in there. Submission and documentation. So you can do this one by fax, email, mail. So the great thing is when you do these requests for information acts on the internet, that's usually how they contact you, the entity you're talking about, like in the state or the county government, township, school board, water district, forest district, road district, library. Those all claim to be political subdivisions because they have one of the three powers of a sovereign state. They can either tax, they can involved in eminent domain, and police power. If you're using any one of those three, you are a political subdivision. Now, you're either a municipal corporation or you've been designated as a division of a municipal corporation. But there's still a municipal corporation someplace. That's my opinion. Okay. And then it tells you what to do, right? Very simple. And when you get all done, claim for reward. To claim a reward for providing this information to the IRS, file Form 211 application for reward for original information. All right, so for those who aren't afraid of the IRS, you can claim a reward. If you are afraid of the IRS, then just put your stuff in anonymously. But still put it in. Go ask for this stuff from your local government. City, town, village, township, road district, school district, whomever, police office, whomever. Get the EIN number. Get a W-9 if you can. Fill out the frickin' complaint form and send it in because they're not going to give you all the information you need. Application for award for original information. Name of taxpayer and any related taxpayers who committed the violation. Right, so this is all about them. Taxpayer address, blah blah blah. What you think they did. Describe the alleged violation. So really, you're just doing the same thing you did on the other form. What date did you acquire this information? Yeah, it's all pretty self-explanatory. Blah blah blah. Except you're going to have to tell them who you are. If you don't know what the answer is, you're going to leave it blank. So you do all this, and then you're supposed to mail it to International Revenue Service, Whistleblowers, ICE. Send it to them with a copy of what you sent down to Dallas and say, here, man, I'm claiming the reward. Call me. They say, well, have you reported your taxes? I say, well, I looked at your IRS 6209 manual, and it says in there that everything that I've ever gotten, be it a 1099 or W-2, W-4, whatever, it's all Class 5 gift or estate. So if I've done anything, I've made a mistake, and I said it was income when I should have said it was gift and estate, put it on a different line on the tax return, and I wouldn't have paid any tax. Well, you know how come most people get in trouble with the IRS? It's really, really simple. Because whoever that is, the IRS, we're going to say it's their agent, but whoever it is, right? We don't even know who they are. They're going to take you to that frickin' district court, like the Western District of Michigan court. And in the district courts and bankruptcy courts that do have jurisdiction in tax matters, you as the defendant, to defend yourself for that, have to have already paid the tax. Had to pay the tax before you could defend yourself. Well, you wouldn't be there if you had paid the tax. That's why you're there. The only place you don't have to pay the tax first is if you go to the U.S. tax court. And for $60, you can open your own case in there and say, hey, I want the determination from them, because they only ever give you an assessment. They have never given you anything to say, this is the tax you owe, and sworn to it. And so you take that to the U.S. tax court, just read the instructions, looks pretty simple, right? But the reason they can get you is because somebody said, well, if you go to the district court, because we have this tax court set up that you could go to and not have paid the tax to defend yourself, and all these other courts, you're going to have paid the tax first before you can defend yourself. Of course, you're not going to pay the tax, so it doesn't matter what you say, blah, 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 blah. Eventually, bang, down comes the gavel, and you lose. Because you didn't take your frickin' complaint, your case, to the court for taxes. It's called the U.S. tax court, for God's sakes. What the hell are you doing in district court if there's a U.S. tax court? Duh! Must be some reason for that. But that's neither here nor there. I don't care if you want the reward or not. I'm not in for the reward myself, to be quite honest. But if that gets you off your ass to go do something, then here you go. The other forms already said, come on and do it. This 1309. Yep, 1309. Right? Claim for reward. There it is. 13909, excuse me. 13909. All right, a simple one-page form that your documentation is going to be the request that you had put in, and their answers back with whatever they gave you and whatever their answer for not giving it to you is. All right, we're the government. We don't do that. We don't have any Form 990, whatever it is. I don't really care. Just give me an answer. I'm going to send it down here and have these guys decide. Right? Because the IRS is really concerned about it. They said so themselves. So I'm going to do my best to make sure that they stay informed about what's happening out here with these tax-exempt organizations. Marvelous. Okay, now, what did I want to show this for? Instrumentalities. Oh, okay. Again, this is just to make very, very clear, as very clear as we can, why they have to do something, even when they're going to tell you you're going to get an answer, well, we don't have to do that. And some people are going to say, oh, well, they said we don't have to do it, so I guess I'll go away. I'll just stay angry. Instead of saying, well, I'm going to let the IRS decide if you got to do it, because I read what the IRS has to say about it, and this is shit that's been said by the IRS. Instrumentalities there denotes entities closely affiliated, generally by government ownership or control, with state and local governments. Instrumentalities, they're right, government entities. The Internal Revenue Manual requires referral to the National Office of Applications for exempt status submitted by instrumentalities of state or political subdivisions. The term also has technical meaning discussed below. Governmental unit. A governmental unit generally includes state, possession of the United States, a political subdivision of a state of the United States or the United States, possession, the United States or the District of Columbia, right? But that's all determined by our Internal Revenue Code 170. Right? So apparently they have to, there's already, you can already see that the Internal Revenue Code, if you don't meet the criteria of IRC 170C1, then you're not a governmental unit. And if you are a governmental unit, there's different things you could be. You could be a political subdivision of the state. Well, it's a political subdivision. The definition of a political subdivision, thankfully, in Regulation 1.103-1B, is used to define the term for numerous purposes for the code. Defines a political subdivision as either a municipal corporation, so either it's a corporation or a division of government that has been delegated the right to exercise part of the government's sovereign power. A division of the government. Well, what's a division of the government? Well, let's say the transportation division is a division of the government, right? Whereas the city of St. Charles is a political subdivision. There are three generally acknowledged sovereign powers: the power to tax, the power of eminent domain, and the police power. An entity is a political subdivision only if it has substantial sovereign power. It need not have all three sovereign powers, but possessing only an insubstantial amount of any or all of the sovereign powers is insufficient. But possessing only an insubstantial amount of any. Well, what's an insubstantial amount? Either you got it or you don't, right? If you use it, you got it. The library uses it, man. They can tax you. Okay, or whenever state or political subdivision had the powers, interests of an owner. What are these? Instrumentalities. So these are an instrumentality is something that's basically owned by the government, part of the government, right? They're the owner, or whether control and supervision of the organization is vested in a public authority or authorities. So we're going to look at some stuff in Kane County. Kane County, all the board members of the Kane County also sit as members of the council on the Forest Preserve District. You look at the way the Forest Preserve District is written. When they say Forest Preserve District, it's the whole county, within which are forest preserves. But the district is the whole county, right? So it would be an instrumentality of the government. For example, state law may designate an entity as a political subdivision, a body corporate and politic, an agency, an authority, a board, a commission, an instrumentality, or similar term. Any entity, right? These state law designations are not controlling for federal tax purposes, however. Rather, an entity must meet the requirements of the particular tax provision. Well, how can they do that? You can't say you're a political subdivision or whatever unless the IRS has just agreed. They just told you, must meet the requirements. Well, how are you going to do that? Well, you're going to apply. Taxation of government entities. I'll tell you what, hang on just a second. I got to go run and take care of something. Okay. Most government entities will not be subject to federal income taxation even if they are not recognized as exempt under IRC 501. The basis of exemption will depend on whether the entity is a governmental unit or a separate organization. The requirements differ for each. Well, how is the IRS going to know unless they've determined that? No provision of the code imposes tax on income of governmental units. The code does, however, impose tax on income of corporations. Well, what did we say? A municipal corporation is a political subdivision. All right? A term that includes many entities that are not corporations under state law. Well, go figure, right? Just because the state doesn't say it's a corporation doesn't mean the IRS doesn't say it's a corporation. Where a government entity is not an integral part of a governmental unit, the service may tax its income unless that income is excluded or exempt from tax. And the only way we're going to know is to go find out. Exclusion under IRC 115, if an entity is separate from, not integral, the government, its income will be subject to tax unless an exclusion or exemption applies. So they had to apply for an exemption. 115 excludes from gross income derived from any public utility or exercise of any essential government function and occurring to the state or political subdivision, including the District of Columbia. what activities involve exercise of central government function is generally decided on a case-by-case basis. Yes, you have to get a determination letter from the IRS. Return requirements. State political subdivision, including the integral parts, are generally not required to file income tax returns with respect to activities they directly conduct. Separately organized instrumentalities, however, are subject to general rules requiring taxable corporations to file returns regardless of whether they have income or owe tax. And, these things are separately organized. The forest district, so what you do is you look at the seal. So the Kane County Forest District says on the seal, organized, and it gives a date. Okay. So it was separately organized. And that district has the people that sit in Kane County, which was organized, sitting over it. At least I think Kane County was organized. Government entities are exempt from any of the miscellaneous excise and other taxes imposed in the Internal Revenue Code. The class entitled to exemption and procedures for claiming it vary. I'm just showing this stuff because apparently, before they can say they are who they say they are, the IRS has to agree. Income tax deduction under IRC 170, contributions to or for the use of governmental unit for exclusive public purposes may be deducted within certain limits by donors who itemize deductions for federal income tax purposes. Under IRC 170, a corporation may deduct charitable contributions, including contributions to or for use of government units, to the extent that they do not exceed 10% of its taxable income, with certain adjustments. The nature of the donee is irrelevant for this purpose. So for a corporation, if it wants to make a contribution to a governmental unit, for it to be tax deductible, first of all, it can't exceed 10% of its taxable income. The unit that's giving the donation, and you're going to have to make sure that you get a W-9 to make sure that the name and the EIN match. If not, you were supposed to hold back 28% of that donation. Because basically, what it's saying is, well, that's not a tax exempt donation. You're just transferring money from one private company to another. And that's what they've been doing. In all, 161 sections of the code apply special rules to governmental units, political subdivisions, or their instrumentalities. They got 161 sections, right? I think somehow they have to be reporting something to the IRS. I don't need to know what it is. I just need to say, hey, I checked this number out in your system and they don't show that they're tax exempt. And I asked them for a determination letter and they didn't give me one. I think it's a for-profit company acting as a non-profit company, guilty of tax evasion and antitrust activity. Please investigate. Thus, the tax environment in which government entities exist is complex. So yeah, we're going to make it a lot simpler for you. When you see them coming through the door with IRS on their shirts, game's over. Separate organization requirements. The separate organization requirement is generally met if the entity is incorporated under state nonprofit corporation law. And by golly, that's what they do. A separate organization requirement is generally met if the entity is incorporated under state nonprofit corporation law. A trust is also a separate organization. Any entity that is a corporation for federal law purposes will be considered separately organized, however, even if not incorporated under state law. But these are incorporated under state law. That letter I showed you, for their tax exemption, they got the county of Kane got because they had applied for the nonprofit status. We're about ready to go look at that. Right, nonprofit organizations. What's some of the characteristics? A limited liability. There you go. Satisfy a separate organization requirement. And so, since they're separate organizations, forget what the political subdivision was supposed to do. They ain't talking about you. You got an EIN number. You got to do your own gig. Organizational test problems. Government entities frequently are organized by means other than incorporation under state nonprofit corporation law. This fact, combined with expansive definition of organization applied, means it's often difficult to identify entities' articles of organization, much less determine their compliance with the organizational test in the regulations. So the easiest thing to do is just ask them for their articles of organization, and if they don't give them to you, then you tell the IRS, hey, they didn't give me the articles of organization. All right, I want to be a good informer. Cool. Let's move on. Okay, what other great things do we find? So what do we find? What do we find? What do we find? Where did I put that? Okay, so in Illinois, review revenue nonprofit. This is off their website. If you're a nonprofit organization, you wish to apply for an exempt number, your organization should send a cover letter using your organization's letterhead requesting the exemption and include a copy of the following: the Articles of Incorporation, if incorporated, organization's constitution, if unincorporated, okay, whatever, bylaws, the IRS letter reflecting federal exempt status, if your organization has one. They don't. Them dumbasses ain't got one of them. The most recent financial statement. Religious organizations do not need to submit a financial statement. Brief narrative of the purposes, functions, brochure, printed material, da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. Now what does this go with? Well, let's go, before I get lost here, let me go find that. Who are we speaking of? Actually, I don't need that one. I just make it too confusing. Give me just a second here. Here we go. This right here. This. And what we're talking about now, right? Nonprofit organization. So, at some point, the county of Kane, because they're getting a renewal, right? At some point, the county of Kane had to have provided Illinois' revenue nonprofit section this information to have gotten its exemption number. There is no fee for this service, and no form is provided by the Illinois Department of Revenue. A charitable organization isn't necessarily qualified because it has a charter from the Secretary of State's office, designated it as a not-for-profit corporation, or an exemption from federal taxes under 501(3). Okay? Basically, they don't have a form. You just provide the information. They're not going to charge it for you. Click here for information on renew your tax. Okay, so you could renew it. The information outlined above should be sent to the following address: Central Registration Division, Illinois Department of Revenue. So why not send this place a FOIA asking for these items here, articles of incorporation, blah, 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 for this entity here, County of Kane Treasurer. I would like to have the documents for the entity that you gave the identification number E9996-850. Do everything by the number. Tie it to the number, right? You want whatever went to this number having to do with these documents for a nonprofit organization. Okay, and then that was Now, sales tax exemption renewal, which is what this really is right here. This is a renewal. What do you got to do? A copy of your current exemption letter with the E99 on it, a copy of the Articles of Incorporation, or if not incorporated, your Constitution, copy of your bylaws, brief narrative of your purposes. By gosh, they got to do it all again anyways. Right, so that's what you want to have. You want to have those documents right there for the entity that was given this tax-free number. Okay, I don't know that I need all this. If an entity is separate, not an integral part of the government unit, its income is taxed unless exemption applies or qualifies it. It's either taxed or you've got to qualify for the exemption. In applying Section 115, the IRS requires as to whether the organization performs service that otherwise would be performed by a governmental unit in furtherance of its statutory purposes. And here's the good part, whether upon liquidation, because we're going to liquidate these fuckers, excuse my French, all residual assets of the affiliate will be distributed to the governmental unit to be used for public purposes, and whether the governmental unit controls the affiliate through its directors. The IRS has interpreted Section 115 in a series of revenue and private letter rulings, right? That's what they need to get, revenue letter rulings and private letter rulings, in which the service has found the following functions to be tax exempt under 115. Property held in trust by a city, temporary investment, right? So all this is showing us, well, there are things that could be by 115 that it sounds like things that these entities would want to be under, but we'll see if they are. Organizations whose income is tax exempt under 115 are not required to file an informational tax return on Form 990. Treasury Right provides that a state institution, the income which is excluded from gross income under Section 115, is not required to file an annual return. However, the exemption from having to file a return does not apply if the entity has unrelated business taxable income under 501, I think it was, or something like that, some other section. In most instances, if a Form SS4 is properly filled out, reflecting that the organization is a government entity, the IRS will not challenge the entity's classification of itself as a governmental affiliate whose income is exempt. However, private letter rulings are available. So they fill out an SS4 saying that they're a governmental entity. The IRS doesn't challenge it, but it doesn't mean that they are, because they haven't gotten the private letter ruling yet. And that's where we're going to hook them by, is because, well, I don't know what they put on the SS4, but what I do know is they don't have a private letter ruling, and I'm challenging it. IRC Section 170 provides that donations made exclusively for public purposes, 2 or 4 use of state political subdivisions are deductible. Yeah, okay. However, because Section 115 organizations do not typically have a determination letter or an approved application for tax-exempt status, potential donors are sometimes reluctant to make charitable contributions. In such circumstances, consideration should be given to qualifying the organization under Section 501c3. Forget that. Because Section 115 organizations, and if you looked at what these kind of things are, they're mainly stuff that you would think of as municipal corporations are involved in. Organization that is formed, operated, and funded by a political subdivision to pool their casualty risk and other issuance of bonds, city buildings, political subdivisions. All right, this is all stuff to do with the government. And what did they say? However, because Section 115 organizations do not typically have a determination letter, so they don't know that they are, or an approved application for tax-exempt status, they never got one, they never put one in, potential donors are sometimes reluctant to make charitable contributions. Exactly. So we're going to check them out to see if they are who they say they are. That's all we're doing. Excuse me. Okay. Now, so what was it they had to put in? There was something. Form they have to file in Illinois. Okay, this is good. All right. So when you go to the revenue site in Illinois and you read through a little bit, it says for any entity who wants to claim to be tax exempt, they have to file this form right here. And this form is going to give the corporation name, the registered agent's name, the registered office name, right? The things we can never find for these entities, because what they're doing, this is for anybody. Actually, this is for Articles of Incorporation, General Not-for-Profit Corporation Act. This is limited liability companies. And I think that even the companies that are for profit, like a bank and so forth, they're probably limited liability companies. They may have a corporation set up somewhere, but there's this other thing hiding that's this limited liability corporation, and apparently the reason they do it is it makes it easier to snake through taxes and so forth. But this is gonna expose who they are, right? So if they got themselves one of these here, then they had to have submitted this form here. Purpose of which it is organized, right? They got to have, it said they had to put in their bylaws, their organization paper, all that stuff had to go back in again. Names and addresses of incorporators. Well, that'd be good to get. So you're going to want to ask for their NFP 102.10. Oh, what was this one? Page 15. Well, that's just some of the crazy stuff that we found. So, you know, when you get their EIN number or something, you put it in the computer, you find some, you know, not very many things, but every once in a while you find something. So this is one here that says the County of McHenry, a body corporate and politic, so that would be a, you know, a political subdivision of the state of Illinois, acting by and through its Division of Transportation, hereinafter called McHenry County. Right? So the Division of Transportation is what's called McHenry County. The County of Kane, a body corporate, body politic, again, a political subdivision of the state of Illinois, acting by and through its Division of Transportation. Whose Division of Transportation? The counties? Hereinafter called Kane County. Does that mean that Kane County is the Division of Transportation, which means it's an instrumentality of a body corporate, body politic of the state of Illinois called the County of Kane? Crazy. The County of Kane, a body corporate politic of the state of Illinois. That means a political subdivision. Acting by and through its Division of Transportation, hereinafter called Kane County. When you see the word Kane County instead of County and Kane, County of Kane is the body politic. Kane County is the Division of Transportation. And they do almost everything in Kane County through Kane County. And that's interesting. Okay. Oh, did I do this one? Come on, baby. Nope. This is just this just tells some of the things that they don't pay when they go to the state to get when they fill out the paperwork for tax exemption.
A vast virus database has been
To get that stupid little number. Just real quick, so this is what right, same place, Illinois Department of Revenue, University of Pittsburgh of Pittsburgh, PA, University of Pittsburgh. That's what I wanted to show you. We gotta go back and look at that. But what this is showing is that this place got an EIN number, E99 number, just like the county did, right? E99, E99, and they're claiming they're going to have the exact same exemptions as this entity, the County of Kane of Geneva, Illinois, who I'm really interested to see who that is. So, just to show there isn't any difference what they're getting, right? So, business registration, page 14. The county certifies that its correct federal identification number is, and that's the one we've been looking at, that for these guys, although it's not on this is the state, but on their federal, this was the number, and it is doing business as a governmental entity whose mailing address is Kane County Division of Transportation. Right? The mailing address for the frickin' governmental entity, the county, is the Kane County Division of Transportation. Not Kane County address that they give you like for the clerk's office or something like that. No, it's the Division of Transportation. There's that division. The village certifies that its correct federal identification number is, and it's doing business as a government entity whose mailing address is, someplace else. All right, so these are both doing business as a governmental entity. Number one, they're doing business as, right? It's almost like Jeepers. DBA time. They are pretending to be a governmental entity. I can't get over this one here though, that well, let's look. Hang on just a second here. Yeah, because I got it somewhere. It just takes a minute. Well, I thought the County of Kane right? So I don't know who they're calling the county, right? I guess we have to go back up here and see where the county came into it. Where did they first start calling them the county? Because, they do this in the early. And from here on out, we're just going to use the word county to replace something else. Jeepers. Okay. By and between the County of Kane, a body corporate politic of the state of Illinois, hereinafter the county, right? County of Kane. County of Kane. County of Kane. Okay? And we go back to this. The County of Kane certifies that its correct federal identification number is 6585. Yeah, 6585. County of Kane. Yep. Okay, I agree with you there. Doing business as a government entity whose mailing address is Kane County Division of Transportation. Well, what'd they put up here for an address? Address 719 South Batavia Avenue, Geneva, Illinois. They didn't say mailing address, but they did say address. Well, those aren't the same addresses. Well, Kane County Division of Transportation is the mailing address for. So I guess you would put County of Kane, care of Kane County Division of Transportation, and then put the address. The proper way to address a letter to them. We're going to have fun with these people next week. Okay. What else was there? Forest Preserve. Okay. So here was one of the things that Roe put in to a FOIA request, right? Asked for the EIN number. Got it. Asked for W-9. They gave it. The legal name. Got it. The district is not a 501 organization. Okay, we asked for the 1023 or 1024. Nope, didn't do those. The district is a governmental entity and is tax exempt. Okay, where's the proof? Right? They should have a letter like they have from the state. District was created by a referendum in 1925, does not have bylaws, but complies with Downstate Forest Preserve Act. The district uses ordinances attached. Fines can be paid. See, because this district has jurisdiction, and here we go. This is the thing. Whenever any area of contiguous territory lying wholly within one county contains one or more natural forests or parks thereof, and one or more cities, towns, or villages, such territory, right, the territory, as long as it lies within the county, so that the territory of the county may be incorporated as a forest preserve district, and a referendum passed under Section 18 of the Conservation District Act. Or in the following manner. So that could be done a couple ways. Why is this important? Because I don't think they do these things completely, as we're going to see. So anyways, prior to this, there had been a conservation district, and for whatever reason, they're going to change it into this forest district. 500 legal voters organize forest preserve district under this act. Such petition shall be addressed to the circuit court of the county, right? So there needs to be a petition. So that's what we asked for. So okay, well, where's the petition that allows you to do this in the first place? And on this thing, it's going to be basically the proposition shall be substantially in the following form. So first they're going to do a petition, and then they're going to have a referendum. Shall there be organized a forest preserve district in accordance with the order of the judge of the circuit court of some county, dated to be known as, described, yada yada yada. Right? So did they ever do this? Well, this is an election thing, so it should be easy enough to find in the election by doing a FOIA to the election department. The clerk of the circuit court of the county shall cause a statement of the result of the referendum in a proposed district to be filed in the records of the circuit court for the county in a majority of the votes cast. The proposed district shall therefore be deemed, yada yada yada. Somewhere in here it was real important though. Oh, such petition shall be addressed to the circuit court of the county in which the proposed forest preserve district is situated, and shall contain a definite description of the territory intended to be embraced in such district and the name of such district. And so the Kane County Forest Preserve takes up the whole district, or takes up the whole county. Hang on, I'll get that stuff to you. Okay, this is the use ordinance for the Forest Preserve District, Kane County, Forest Preserve District of Kane County. So it says, ordinance number 213, remember that, right? So they wrote this ordinance. This was back in 1995. And whereas, blah, 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 blah. Right, they're going to establish general use regulation ordinance governing the use of the forest preserves of the district. Now, not all this is what I want to get into. I want to get down to this part about enforcement. All members of the district police have the power and are authorized to arrest, with or without process, any person found in the act of violating any ordinance of the district or law of the state of Illinois. Now that's within the district. The district is the entire county, not just in the forest preserves, in the district. In all cases where the same offense shall be made punishable, or shall be created by different clauses or sections of this or any other ordinance or statute, the district police or other duly sworn peace officer or persons prosecuting may elect under such to proceed, but not more than one judgment shall be had against the same person for the same offense. In other words, you can be tried in two different jurisdictions. If a non-parking related mail-in citation is not paid within 60 days of its issuance, the mail-in citation shall be converted to a mandatory notice to appear at court date certain, as stated therein, and the same shall be mailed by the district police department to the defendant by certified mail, the mail address shown in the original mail-in citation. A mail-in citation shall be in ticket form and shall not require a court appearance. But this is what they didn't do, right? They issued a complaint for Roe, but they never issued a citation. Now they say it's a mail-in citation, right? That she was supposed to mail it in, but they never gave it to her. Well, they were using her wrong zip code anyway, so when the district police department would have mailed this to her now because she didn't respond to make it a mandatory notice to appear, she wouldn't have gotten it. Any non-parking related citation requiring an appearance of the defendant in court shall be governed by full fine authority. Okay. The police officers of the district shall have the discretion to issue mail-in citations for violations of district ordinances where the officer determines that the circumstances taken as a whole do not justify a court appearance, citation, offense, yada yada yada. Now Roe got in trouble for disorderly conduct in the office of the county clerk or the county recorder, Geneva, Illinois. Those buildings, this like a complex, like a campus, are all on forest preserve property. It is a forest preserve. And after that had happened, one of the things we try to do is go to the Geneva police to say, hey, what happened over here? We'd like to get a copy of the record. They say, well, we don't have it here. Right? That's not our jurisdiction. Well, whose jurisdiction is it? It's the forest preserve's jurisdiction. And I believe that the police department itself, or the sheriff's office, is in the forest preserve. So it's a forest sheriff. Old English forest sheriff, man. It's old English forest law. Right? Manhunters. Yada, yada, yada. What else was there? Federal, state, local laws. Now this is the interesting thing. All persons within Forest Preserve of Kane County, Illinois are subject to all ordinances, rules, regulations of the district, as well as all applicable laws of the United States, the state of Illinois, local statutes, ordinances, as amended and changed from time to time. These laws include, but not limited, yada, yada, yada. Okay? All persons within the Forest Preserves of Kane County, Illinois. And that's where all the government offices are, and that's where your person is. Right? You're registered as a citizen of the county. It's going to be in those buildings, which are in the Forest Preserve. But as are all those people working in those buildings. They're all bound by federal law, according to this. And because it's federal law, well, that means you can bring in things like the Civil Rights Act 1866 and say they're using color of law against me and it's a simulated legal process. But this goes on and on. So they wrote this thing that what I want to get to, right, is approved and passed on the 8th day of August 1995. Of course, there's no signatures on here. Nothing. Right? Prove it. Prove that it was approved. Here's another one. Prove this one's approved. This is 214. All that to get to this. On the response to one of Roe's many FOIAs was this. Thank you for writing the Forest Preserve of Kane County with the request for information pursuant to Freedom of Information Act, September 10th, 2014. Received a request. The following documents regarding the applications for permit or right. Let's start with 214. So anyways, permits issued by President and ordinances, and there's 214, 222, 338, 498. So they didn't really answer her question the way she had said, but it doesn't matter because what they did, they gave us some things to look at here. The first one is, here's this 214 ordinance, right? That 214 ordinance, that's this one. Now remember, there's one before it. This one here is 213, August. That one had to be done first before 214 could have been done. That would make sense, right? Adopted, passed this 10th, 1995. Here it is. Adopted and passed 10th day of October 1995. Well, it's got the secretary's signature and it's got the president's signature. And it even has that it was published. This is wonderful. It's like, wow, look at that. Well, it's even been published. So here it is. I, Robert J. Quinlan, do hereby certify that I am the Secretary Treasurer of the Forest Preserve District of the County of Kane, and that as such Secretary Treasurer, I am the keeper and custodian of the files and records of the said Forest Preserve District, and the seal of thereof. There's something that I want to know who that man is. I want to go see his records because he's got the seal and he's got the records and the files, and he certifies that the attached is a full, true, and correct copy of the Ordinance 214, Ordinance amending the Ordinance providing general use regulation of Forest Preserve 213. Why is 213 in parentheses? You want to know why? Because it was never frickin' signed. It's my opinion. I don't believe it ever got signed, right? That they signed this one. I got to look at it sideways now, but right, they did do 214. I don't know if you can see that. See where it says County of Kane and it says organized? That's where they went to the state to get organized. Non-profit at the state. Keep going down here. The reason I keep going down is because they did some other ones. And so now this Robert, he's still the Secretary Treasurer. And this is in 1996. The one before is 1995. This is 1996. And he's still the Secretary Treasurer. And then time went on, and now we're to like 2002. And Robert's still there. But now he certifies that he's the Assistant Secretary of the Forest Preserve District of the County of Kane, Illinois. Well, he was the Secretary Treasurer before, and now he's the Assistant Secretary, but he's still the keeper and custodian of the files and records and of the seal. Well, how can that be? Who changed his office? Right? Where's the authorization to change his office? It's still okay. Now, instead of finding the Secretary Treasurer, you want to find the Assistant Secretary because he's the keeper. Well, an Assistant Secretary isn't going to be somebody who's been elected to an office. He's going to be an assistant. He's going to be an assistant. It's like a deputy secretary. And this is where all the deputies took over. I think this guy's passed away now, but and then this last one wasn't even done. But in 2003, yeah, it's 2003. Old Robert J. Quinlan is now the assistant secretary, where in 1996, Robert J. Quinlan was the secretary treasurer. In both cases, he says he has the files, the records, and the seal. So, but forgetting all that for just a second, what they didn't do is they never provided 213. Where's the one signed, sealed, delivered for 213? They did do these other ones just the way, like they were probably supposed to. Secretary, that would be Robert. Approved by the president. Sealed. County of Kane, Forest Preserve District, State of Illinois. Isn't that pretty? Organized, but there's something missing. We're going to find that out. Okay, so I don't need that one. What did I do with that? Forest Preserve. Maybe it's at the bottom of this. Oh, yeah, before I forget. The reason this thing with the limited liability companies, right? They have their own acts in your legislature. It's the only place I've seen where the juridical being comes into play, because juridical is from the church. So in the definition, person means an individual, partnership, domestic or foreign limited partnership, limited liability company, foreign limited liability company, trust, estate, association, corporation, governmental body, or other juridical being. Juridical being. That is a being that was created in the church. They have public and private juridical persons in the church. And this has governmental body, right? So this is talking about the definition of person as it's going to be used in this act for Limited Liability Company Act. Well, right? So these persons are the ones they're talking about that are going to open these limited liability companies. So basically a government body can, and so can a juridical being. And so if you were listening to the church stuff before, we were talking about this church in St. Louis, where back in the early days, 18 something or other, the Franciscans organized a congregational parish. And I believe it was organized as a limited liability company of juridical being, and it isn't being inhabited now. And instead what they did is they opened these incorporated corporations and are socking the money away into a basically a CAFR account instead of it going to this other juridical being where it could be used by the public. And that's just church stuff. We'll have to get back into it, but my point is articles. So organization. What are articles of organization? A document required to be filed with the appropriate state or local government agency in order to establish legal recognition of a limited liability company. Articles of organization closely parallel articles of incorporation needed for legal creation and recognition of corporations. But they're different. Limited liability companies and corporations are creatures of statute. They do not exist in the eyes of the law until articles of organization or incorporation have been properly filed and accepted by the designated governmental agency, commonly the Office of Secretary of State. A business owner is free to set up a LLC in any state. However, the state chosen must be a state of domicile for such persons as jurisdiction, employ, and withholding tax and required annual filings. Prior to filing articles of organization, a business owner must check with the state in which the articles will be filed to determine the availability of a chosen name. Most states do not require a specific format for articles of organization, right? They don't provide the form. All states, however, do require specific minimum information to be contained within the articles. And so that's what the other form is for, is just the basic information. You're going to give us this, and now, right, the form that we saw from Illinois. The required information includes the name of the entity, the business form, a statement of general purpose, name and address of the agent, forms for ownership, blah, 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 blah. That would be this form right here. Come on, baby. Come on. I gotta get out of here. I got work to do. This form, right? Name of the company, the agent, the directors, the purpose, a few questions, other provisions, right? Add other paperwork. So this is where the articles of incorporation, constitution, that kind of stuff go on. And this is all going to the state, right? This is to the state. This is to the state. Be asking the state for it. So, okay. Anywho, all that was just to show you, don't believe what their paper says. Don't believe what they say. Right, here's another thing. So let's get back up here. Where were we? Okay, this is where we were talking about the forest preserve earlier. Okay, and then they're going to do this referendum, yes or no. Okay, well, show it to me. Show me a certified copy of the circuit court clerk that this ever happened. Clerk of the circuit court that this ever happened. It also talks about the section 18.1, organization of forest preserve district. The voters of a conservation district that's entirely within one county may, by single referendum proposition, dissolve the conservation district under section 18 of this act and incorporate as a forest preserve district under another act. Why? Who knows? Just because. How are they going to do it? An ordinance by a county board and filing a petition. The Secretary of the Board of Trustees of the County Board or the Board of Trustees, as appropriate, shall certify the proposition to the appropriate election authorities, who shall submit the proposition as a consolidated or general election according to election code. Show me the paper. The resulting forest preserve district shall not be deemed to be a legal successor or sign of the dissolved conservation district. So the two aren't going to have anything to do with each other. District means conservation district organized under this act. Board means Board of Trustees for such district. And trustee means trustee of such district. Okay. What's all that have to do with anything? We're going to get to this right here. So, the conservation district's going away. If there are any bonds of the conservation district outstanding and unpaid at the time the district is dissolved, such a district shall remain liable for such bond indebtedness, and the district may continue to levy and extend taxes upon the taxable property in such territory for the purpose of amortizing such bonds until such time as the bonds are retired. They never retire the bonds. Right? So even though the conservation district's going away, if it had any bonds, well, they still need to be paid and they can still levy. Well, you may not, be getting the paperwork anymore because they changed the name. I don't know. When the board of a district proposes to incur indebtedness and issue bonds, right? So this is crazy. When the board of the district proposes to incur indebtedness and issue bonds other than tax anticipation warrants for the purpose of development of real property or for the purpose of incurring indebtedness, right? They're going to do it for one reason, to put the frickin' corporation in debt. So they're going to issue bonds to create an indebtedness. Because once there is, then the people of that district are responsible for the indebtedness. The bond hasn't been paid. They put a lien against the bond that ties up all the property in the frickin' district because the $5 bond wasn't paid. Right? This is why there's $190 million in CAFR accounts, net assets, because they haven't paid the frickin' debts. Or you can see, let's say there's, well, the ones we looked at last week, $190 million in net assets. But the long-term debt is almost $400 million. So that means from today to whenever the debt's retired, it's going to be $400 million. But it just told you, if you paid the frickin' debt off today, number one, you wouldn't have $400 million in debt for 20 years, and you would have $190 million in the bank. And it's just because they're not frickin' retiring these damn bonds. They just keep rolling them over. And that's what we're going to get them to change. So this is just one way they could do it. They shut down the conservation district, open up another district, but the bills of the original district are still there. They're not going to get paid, and so there's going to be a lien put against the property, and it's just that simple. Now they just put the local government into Chapter 11, and you are the local government. So, okay. Well, I hope I got covered the main things here. There's so much stuff to look at anymore. I can't keep track. But the biggest thing is, right, gather evidence, submit a referral, claim your reward. And you're going to use this form here. And that form there. Right, here's the complaint form, 13909, and you could check such things as failed to report. Okay, this is the application for award, right, for a reward that you would file. This goes actually to a different office. It's asking for a lot of the same information, but this form said do this and then do the other form. Right, so failed to file required federal tax returns and forms. Failed to report employment income and excise liability properly. Check, check. Other, antitrust activity. Details of violations. Name of persons involved. That would just be the name of the company. That's all I'm going to put on there is I've asked for this information from this entity, and they don't have a determination letter from the IRS that says they are who they say they are. I don't have the exact words down yet, but that is what the purpose of this is just to point out, hey, right there, one page form. That's all you got to do. Application, 1 page form. Right? That's all you got to do for the reward. Okay, and really it just starts with asking for an EIN number and a W-9, and whatever paperwork they were supposed to have from the state, because this really starts at the state. First they go to the state to get their exemption. I mean, I don't really know what came first, the chicken or the egg. I'm just saying that when you get this tax exempt letter here, this is coming from the state, and to get this letter, you had to have provided the state with the things that we talked about earlier, which is right here. An entity seeking exemption from sales tax should furnish the department with the following: If incorporated, copy the articles of incorporation. If unincorporated, organization's constitution, copy of its bylaws, narrative explaining purpose, copy of Internal Revenue Service letter respecting federal tax exempt status if the organization has one. Right? So when you're asking these people and they come back and they don't have it, say, well, the company never, the entity never got their letter from the IRS. Copy of brochures, copy of most recent financial statement, any other information which reflects the purpose, function, and activities of the organization. The information noted in subsection B above enables the department to determine the status of the organization for sales tax purposes. And there you go. Okay, we're going to leave it there. A little bit more work to do, but let's see what happens next. Y'all have a good day.